Welcome back to Paul's Tech News. I've noticed it too, as a person who spends probably too much time consuming and digesting tech-related information online. The rift between what I want to discuss and what I feel obligated to discuss seems ever widening, and yet at the same time, inextricably interconnected. I'd like to talk about new GPUs launching, but they've all been canceled or pushed back by memory shortages and AI. Basic PC building advice is similarly waylaid by immediate pricing concerns due to memory and SSD shortages caused by AI, even speculative, rumor-based news of far-off launches in the distant future, like Intel possibly re-entering the high-end desktop space or doing something even stranger with Nova Lake AX, are tainted by pessimistic assumptions about why they would do that, with the obvious answer being to cater to the needs of AI-focused customers who are apparently willing to spend 5 to 10 times more on their PC hardware than your average PC gamer. And I don't really have a solution to this dilemma, but I wanted to put it out there and assure you that as I meticulously pore over the subject matter that I discuss each week, I am being careful to keep that hardware focus at the forefront while doing my best to cover the AI-generated noise as it relates to our beloved hobby, with all due criticism, of course. And I might as well have a beer today, too. Cheers to you all, and on with the tech news.
Excellent!
Today's video is brought to you by the Paul's Hardware store on paulshardware.net, the only official source for Paul's Hardware merchandise, tantalizing t-shirts, brilliant beer sets, high-quality hoodies, and more, all featuring the classic thumbscrew for tasteful and refined viewers, or the 8-bit thumbscrew for tasteful and refined viewers who hate curves. New designs are added sporadically and at random, so head over to paulshardware.net and get some of that sweet, sweet merch right now. Or not right now, after you watch the video. Either way. Okay, as promised, we're going to start with the good stuff. Powerful new PC hardware lurking on the horizon, still in development, but with tantalizing details coming to light that, of course, open up new unanswerable questions. I'm referring to Nova Lake AX, the codename for Intel's mysterious series of processors that will supposedly include a massive 48 Xe-core iGPU, using 3rd generation Xe3P cores, no less. By comparison, the Arc A770 shipped with 32 1st-gen Xe cores, and the B580 uses 20 2nd-gen Xe cores. But let's clarify a few things for context. You've probably heard of Nova Lake. It's Intel's actual next-gen CPU architecture expected in late 2026. That architecture will power a range of chips, and so there are derivative code names such as Nova Lake S that's designated for socketed desktop CPUs. That's probably the one we're most interested in, and Nova Lake H for mobile CPUs, as well as Nova Lake HX for high-end laptops. That one also had a leak this week claiming up to 28 core configurations with 8 performance cores, 16 efficiency cores, and 4 low power efficiency cores, presumably for when the efficiency cores aren't efficient enough. Nova Lake AX is a different beast entirely though, and when it first surfaced in July 2025, it was thought to fall into the high-end SoC category to compete with parts like AMD's Strix Halo lineup. That's the one that pairs flagship tier Zen 5 CPU chiplets with powerful integrated graphics previously unheard of when it comes to iGPUs, as well as up to 128 gigabytes of memory. Not to make epic gaming PCs that don't need a discrete graphics card though, as I had hoped, but to accommodate tasks that need a lot of GPU horsepower and a lot of memory, namely AI, but don't let that disappoint you too much. Back to Intel's Nova Lake AX, which we first heard about back in the heady pre-shortage days of summer 2025, but it was thought at first to be more of a mobile-oriented chip, and even the leaker who leaked it was skeptical it would ever launch. But on Thursday, WCCF Tech discovered a shipping manifest that includes Nova Lake AX CPU tools, which also lists the socket, LGA 4326. For one, that's a socketed socket, not a BGA mount, which points toward a desktop or workstation product rather than an SoC made for mobile devices. And that's also pretty frickin' huge, measuring 37.5 by 56.5 millimeters. By comparison, Intel's mainstream Nova Lake S CPUs are expected to use socket LGA 1954 with less than half the pins. That casts much doubt on Nova Lake AX being a laptop-oriented design, and I'm holding out hope that Intel is developing a platform that provides enough memory bandwidth to make Nova Lake AX a viable desktop PC gaming alternative without a discrete GPU, as many had hoped would would be the case with Strix Halo. Now, to be clear, that's a big leap on my part and might just be wishful thinking, as it would require both a big drop in memory prices and a somewhat sane consumer-oriented pricing scheme for Nova Lake AX. But Intel has been clawing their way back lately, even on the workstation side of things, as shown in KitGuru's Xeon 696X review just this week. It's not faster than AMD's fastest Threadripper, but it's right there in the mix. Speaking of a big drop in memory prices, did that happen this week? Looking at headlines, you might have thought so, but looking at retail prices doesn't show much change. I've said before that only two things will get RAM prices to drop back to normal: an actual increase in supply via new fabs coming online, or the AI bubble popping. But there's actually a third reason that's been heavily in play lately: bullshit. Also known as bark without bite, aka empty promises, aka all hat and no cattle. In reality, it is true that some retail memory kit prices are actually down from their absurd peaks this week, but a 10% drop after a 400% increase still results in very overpriced consumer DRAM. And it is also true that the stock prices of the big three memory makers, Micron, SK Hynix, and Samsung, dropped by 10 to 30% in the last week of March, and some claim they know why, but none of the explanations smell quite right. Perhaps it was last week's announcement of Google's TurboQuant compression algorithm that losslessly reduces the amount of memory needed for some AI workloads, but it can easily be argued that it only impacts cache size, or that increased demand as well as larger and more complex models will eat up those gains. Perhaps OpenAI shutting down Sora, or being accused of not following through with those equally foul-smelling 900,000 wafer per month agreements that were supposed to consume 40% of global supply, are the reason. And yes, it would seem like some justice to see non-binding letters of intent coming back to bite those who have apparently been gaming the PC hardware supply chain for their own benefit, but that's still unconfirmed, and all of these reasons are shaky and speculative, though they've still managed to cause a collapse in memory markets in the past few days, per headlines. Speaking personally, I am hopeful that these recent rumblings are an indication that AI's grip on future RAM production is starting to slip, but just because the bubble has been caught in some high winds doesn't mean it's about to pop. Still, if the upshot for now is modestly cheaper consumer DDR4 and DDR5 prices than a week or two back, I'm all for this trend continuing, even if it is based on bullshit. Speaking of some passing wind, it's time for tech briefs. Do tech media outlets lie? I think the good ones try their best not to, but they can often ride a fine line between fact and speculation, and yes, I'm guilty of this too. But precision of language is important, and that's why you guys should be taking note when something is tagged as a rumor. That means it is unverified and may or may not be true. Case in point, fellow YouTuber Red Gaming Tech posted a video late last week sharing this chart of supposed specs for NVIDIA's theoretical RTX 60 series of video cards, including model numbers like RTX 6090 and GDDR7 memory configurations in the 16 to 32 gigabyte range, but it was not put forth as fact, and he even said he was skeptical of the numbers he was provided. Nevertheless, the specs were repeated in articles in the past few days, and not every headline made it clear that the info was unsubstantiated. Video cards apparently ran it by their industry connections, who said it's hogwash because Rubin gaming chips haven't even taped out yet, and NVIDIA isn't even using names like RTX 6080, 6090, and so on. So remember to treat rumors as rumors and wait for public statements from companies like NVIDIA for the real specs. Speaking of hogwash, Microsoft Copilot, often pitched as an essential business tool in 2026 and routinely shoved down the throats of otherwise celibate Windows users, is apparently made for entertainment purposes only, not serious use. Hey, kind of like Fox News. This breakthrough information was dug up by Tom's Hardware from the Microsoft Copilot Terms of Use, down in the fine print where they write down what they really think, which was updated in October 2025. Don't rely on Copilot for important advice. Use Copilot at your own risk, the terms say, and that's probably the best advice you'll ever hear from something that is closely related to AI. Too bad they don't lead with that info, but I'd go one step further and suggest that you shouldn't rely on Copilot for any advice. Or any cloud-based AI assistant, for that matter. Speaking of things that have made PC building shittier, Bitcoin. It's been a while since GPU crypto mining was a thing, thank God, but a white paper published by Google on Tuesday has the Bitcoin community in a bit of a huff. Apparently, quantum computing advances are now threatening to break the crypto part of the world's most valuable cryptocurrency sooner than expected. All they need is a 500,000 qubit quantum computer rather than a roughly 2 million qubit one as previously thought. To put this in perspective, Google's best quantum chip, Willow, has 105 qubits, but researchers involved now estimate Bitcoin transaction hacking via a sufficiently capable quantum computer could happen by 2032. To be clear, the theoretical attack would target an individual transaction's encryption using the public key, not the blockchain itself, and advice for Bitcoin users out there is to move your funds to a fresh, never-used address that hasn't yet exposed its public key. Rounding things out, yes, I did post another new LEGO channel video this week. It's the long-anticipated Diagon Alley build, and it's linked in the description if you'd like to check it out. I know not everyone is into LEGO, but just wanted to say a huge thank you once again to those who have stopped by to watch a video, post a comment, and offer some feedback. In closing, it is now April, if you didn't notice, and while I've mostly given up on enjoying anything April Fool's related ever again, I did keep an eye out for anything tech related that might elicit a sensible chuckle or two. Honorable mentions go out to the FPS Review, whose fake post about AMD's RDNA 5 white paper nearly got me. Supposedly they were going to rename compute units to vibe units that are optimized for rendering scenes that feel correct rather than simply being correct. Not bad, but the win for me goes to HEDT, who made a quite polished video for their HEDT Y70 Puff, the world's first inflatable PC case. Surprisingly, the Y70 Puff does not look too great for airflow, but I think GPU sag would probably be the biggest trouble area. I do want one as a pool toy for the summer though. But there you have it guys, tech news for the week, and if you liked it, click that like button or leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all of the articles I talked about today are linked in this video's description if you're interested, and you can check out my store at paulshardware.net for high quality merchandise, t-shirts and hoodies, beer sets and more. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call too. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you next week.